Are business owners more likely to be audited by the IRS? Yeah, let me explain why. If you're self-employed, you own a business, you probably heard this before. Business owners get audited more. That statement sounds alarming, but it's also incomplete. The IRS doesn't specifically audit people because they're business owners. They audit based on compliance risk. And understanding the difference can change how you protect yourself. Let's talk about why business owners are viewed differently by the taxing authorities. Let's start with the basics. Everybody else that doesn't own a business is usually a W-2 employee. They have taxes withheld automatically. Their income is reported by their employer, matched by the IRS, and largely verified before a return is ever filed. See, business owners don't work inside the system. You report your own income. You categorize your own expenses. You decide what's deductible and what's not. That flexibility is your legal right. It's also where elevated audit compliance exposure risk begins. It's not about wrongdoing right off the bat. Here's the important part. Higher audit compliance risk does not mean that you've done anything illegal. Most audits are not initially about tax fraud. They're about verification. The IRS is asking, do the numbers make sense? Are the supporting records underlying the return consistent? Can the claim deductions be supported? Was all income reported? But the more taxpayer discretion is involved, the more federal and state taxing authority scrutiny typically follows. So what are the common audit risk signals? Certain patterns draw attention faster than others. For example, high deductions relative to your income. A cash-based business draws more attention. Home office deductions, vehicle and travel expenses, independent contractor payments, repeated losses year after year coupled with a very luxurious lifestyle. Each one of these things can be legitimate, but when multiple red flags appear together, the documentation is incomplete, the risk of audit or criminal tax investigation increases exponentially. Not automatically criminal, but definitely closer review. Let's talk about civil audits versus criminal tax exposure. Most IRS audits start off simply as civil audits. At this stage, the IRS is still deciding what kind of case this really is. This is where many taxpayers make critical mistakes. They over-explain. They volunteer information. They let non-privileged professionals create written records that can later be used against them in a court of law. The danger isn't the audit itself. It's what the IRS concludes about your potential criminal tax intent. Your intent changes everything. Math errors, that's civil. But criminal intent changes the story. Intent is what allows a civil audit to escalate into criminal tax investigation. That shift doesn't happen overnight. It happens through emails, draft returns, verbal explanations, and poorly controlled communications via an improperly trained and unqualified taxpayer representative. Once the IRS believes the errors in the returns aren't a mistake, but rather intentional tax fraud and related behavior, the rules change dramatically against you. So this is why the right representation in an audit makes all the difference. Listen, accountants are excellent with numbers. I employ a bunch of them. I'm an attorney and an accountant, a CPA, as a matter of fact. But CPA communications are not protected by attorney-client privilege. Our tax attorneys and an entire staff of CPAs are protected under privilege. At the tax law offices of David W. Klasing, we are dual licensed tax attorneys and CPAs. That combination allows us to control communication, coordinate privileged accounting work, and defend the math in the original return and the legal exposure for tax fraud. If you're self-employed or you own a business and the IRS is asking questions, this is not a time to guess. Call the tax law offices of David W. Klasing at 800-681-1295 or visit KlasingAndAssociates.com to schedule a confidential, reduced-rate initial consultation today. We have never had an audit client be criminally prosecuted to date. Thank you. You won't regret it.